Welcome back to MVM. My name is Kevin Grote, and this is your Kickstarter preview of Ruination by Kolossal Games. Set in post-apocalyptic Eurasia, Ruination is a 2 to 4 player area control game. You're going to recruit units to build an army. You're going to find ways to gain advantages over your opponents. You're going to move across the map. You're going to scavenge resources, and you're going to convince exiles to fight alongside you. All of this in order to gain victory points and prove to the immortal Khan that you are most worthy. So let's talk a little bit about the board and what everything is. So the map on the board is split up into 5 regions. There are 4 regions, 1 on each corner, and then 1 in the dead center of the board. Within each region is 3 territories. The 4 outer regions are going to be your starting regions, and that's where you will begin the game as a player. And the center region in the middle is probably going to be something that everybody's going to fight for. On this side of the board, you have advantage cards. These can be acquired using resources, and what they're going to do is they're going to go on your personal player board called a horde board, and they will give you upgrades, special abilities, and possibly additional ways to gain victory points at the end of the game. On this side over here, you have exiles. These are additional units that you can acquire and add to your army. They're very powerful in battle, and they provide a one-time bonus when you acquire them. They're acquired with resources, just like the advantage cards. At the bottom of the board is the victory point track, and that's where you'll keep track of how many victory points you've acquired over the course of the game. At the top of the board, you have 2 different tracks. This is Favor and this is Glory. And those you'll start in the center and work your way out towards the edge of the board. Those will provide you with various effects over the course of the game. This here is your battle board, and this helps you keep track of your army's total strength and the number of casualties you'll be inflicting on your opponent when in battle. These cards here are your main actions. You have Scavenge, Move, and Recruit. Those are the 3 main actions that you will take. Every turn, you get to choose one of those actions that you take. So, let's talk about each one of those individually and how they work. The first is Scavenge. In order to scavenge, you have to have units on the board, which, in most cases, you will at all times. So let's say that the yellow player here has 3 grunts on their starting territories. There's 2 different ways that they can choose to scavenge. The first way is to acquire 1 resource from each territory that they control. In this case, they control these 3 territories, so they would gain 1 of each of those resources, and they track those individually on their player board. Now, if they had all 3 of their units in this one single space, they could also choose to, instead of scavenging 1 resource from every space they control, they could instead choose to scavenge 1 territory and gain resources equal to the number of units they have on that territory. As soon as you've finished acquiring resources from scavenging, you then have the opportunity to buy an advantage card. Advantage cards come in 3 different tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 and 2 advantage cards give you some special advantage, and it's an ongoing effect that will help you out for the rest of the game. And they also provide a bonus tactic that, when played on your horde board, will be used during battle. Now, Tier 3 also has the upgraded tactic as well, but instead of having an ongoing effect that benefits you for the rest of the game, instead it provides you a one-time effect that happens the moment you acquire the card, and it has an additional way to acquire victory points at the end of the game. So, that's what you do during a scavenge action. The next action you can take is a move action. The way movement works is you can either select 1 territory, and all of the units in that territory can move out of that territory to any adjacent territory. If our units are all here, you can select this territory and send them out. Now, you don't have to send all of them. You can choose to just send 1 or 2, or you can send all of them, but they can go out to different territories as long as the one you selected is where they're leaving from. The other way that you can move is select a territory where you want your units to move to. So let's say we select this purple territory here. Any of your units that are in adjacent territories can move into it. So these guys could come join their fellow grunt here in that territory. Now, this area right here is called the wasteland, and that's also going to affect your movement. So basically, what the wasteland does is it connects a bunch of the territories on the board together. And so any territory that is touching the wasteland is adjacent to every other territory that's touching the wasteland. So this territory is actually adjacent to this one. And with one single move action, you can travel from here to there. However, anytime you travel through the wasteland, it's going to cost you. It's either going to cost you one casualty or one resource of your choice. When you take a casualty out of the army that you have traveling through the wasteland, you would just select one of those units to be killed and returned to your supply. Now, the 4 corner territories and the one in the dead center, those ones are not touching the wasteland, and therefore, in order to reach those, you have to get to one of the spaces that are adjacent to them first. So let's say that our green player here decided to spend a resource to travel through the wasteland and cross over here. This movement here would, at the end of the turn, cause a battle to happen. But we'll get back to battles later because they're a little bit complicated, and I want to finish talking about our final action. So the last action that you can take on your turn is a recruit action, and that's how you acquire more units to add to your army. Now keep in mind that at the end of your turn, you're only allowed to have a maximum of 6 units. So you'll never grow a big, massive army. And I think that's one of the things that makes this game a little bit different than some of the other area control games, is you might have a battle where you lose half or all of your army, but it's not that difficult to rebuild it fairly quickly. And the way you do that is by recruiting. So with a recruit action, the first thing you're going to do is acquire 3 recruit points, and you can spend those in a few different ways. With your recruit points, you can acquire grunts, raiders, and you can acquire brutes. Once you're done gaining units and placing them on the map, then you're going to have the opportunity to acquire exiles. Now, exiles cost resources, and they also have an accompanying miniature that will get placed on the map in one of your controlled territories. Exiles give you a one-time effect that you get to utilize the second you acquire the exile, and then they also get used in battle, and they're generally quite a bit better than your standard units. So one thing that makes Ruination unique is when you take your turn, you take the standard action, but then you're not done. Now, each action deck here has a bunch of different cards in it that are all different. After you've taken the standard action, whether it be scavenge, move, or recruit, then you might possibly gain favor or glory. So for example, if someone took the move action on their turn while this traverse card was at the top of the deck, after taking their move action, they would gain 1 favor and 1 glory, in which case they would move up. Let's say it was the blue player. They would move up their little token 1 space on each track. Now, if they had decided to recruit, then they would only gain the 1 favor, and they would do this instead. So after you've taken your basic action, you've possibly gained favor or glory, then you get to take advantage of the text at the bottom of the action card. And those are quite a bit different from card to card. And overall, the cards here might incentivize you to make a different decision and do something different than you might have chosen to normally. So if there was no special effects, you might have wanted to move across the map and start a battle, but maybe the recruit bonuses seemed so great to you that you decide, I'm going to recruit instead. Or maybe you're pretty high up on the favor track and you want to maintain the lead spot on that track, and so you would select an action that gets you favor. So you could see that the center of the board could be pretty valuable because there's 2 bastions in the dead center. Also, the resources that you acquire when scavenging there is up to you. Once you've taken an action, you're going to remove that card. Once you've done everything on it and your turn is over, you remove it, discard it, and then a new one is revealed. Now, once the end of the game is triggered, we move this token up on the Khan's Fury track. And so the first thing that happens is everyone scores 2 victory points for each bastion that they control. Once they've done that, the round will finish. After the round has finished, then you play one last round. This is kind of your final chance to take out some opponents, gain victory points, or gain control of maybe a territory that has one or more bastions on it. Then, after all that's been done, everybody again will score 2 victory points for every bastion they control. They gain 1 victory point for any resource type that they have at least 4 of. They get 1 victory point for every blessing that they have at the end of the game, and they get victory points for the tier 3 cards that they have, assuming they met the conditions on them. So now, let's talk about battles. Battles are one of the best ways to gain victory points in Ruination. The way that you start a battle is simply by moving into an enemy-controlled territory, because 2 different opponents cannot be on the same territory without causing a battle. They can't live peacefully together. So, essentially what you're going to do is each player is going to look at all of the units that they have in that territory, and they're going to add up the total strength. Grunts have 1 strength, so our blue player here would set their strength to 3. Green has 1 grunt, so that's 1 strength. They have 1 raider, which also provides 1 strength, and 1 brute, which gives them 2 strength. The raider also provides them with 1 casualty that they will cause at the end of the battle. One thing that's nice about Ruination is that you can actually cause casualties even if you're the losing player. So having raiders or other tactics from your horde board that deal additional casualties might be pretty valuable. Once you've determined your starting strength and number of casualties that you'll inflict, then you gain battle dice. And the way battle dice work is the more different types of army units you have, the more dice you'll roll. So because our blue player only has 1 type of unit, a grunt, they will only roll 1 die. But the green player has a grunt, a raider, and a brute. They get to roll 3 battle dice. Now, on each side of the battle die, you have a 1-star result, you have a blank, you have a 2-star result, and you have 2 fists, which gain you 2 additional strength. After you've rolled your dice, you then have the opportunity to place your dice on your horde board. The way the horde board works is after rolling your dice, the stars have a few different spaces where you can place them. So if we were to have this advantage card on our board, after we've purchased it, we can place it on our board here for free. We can spend 1 additional resource or 2 additional resources to place it here or there. Now, what makes these great is that when placing dice, now if I were to place a die right here, I have an improved tactic that not only gives me 1 strength, but it also gains me 2 blessings. What blessings do is you can spend 1 blessing to re-roll a die. You can spend 2 blessings to re-roll any number of dice that you wish, or you can spend 3 to just take 1 and place it on the side that you want. Also, at the beginning of the game, any territory that doesn't have a player's starting units on it will have a nomad token. Those are just additional battles that you have to face in order to enter into a new territory that doesn't have anyone on it yet. Well, that's it for Ruination. I hope that gives you a good idea of how the game works. It's a solid area control game with plenty of conflict and some dice rolling mechanics for battle. If you found this video useful, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, all that stuff. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kevin Grote. This has been your MVM preview of Ruination by Kolossal Games.